Okay, so thanks for joining us for this call tonight. We're going to be going over chapters 13 through 15 tonight. So
The bulk of the reading.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like when I looked at it, I was like, whoa, there's a lot in this one. I was like, oh, small section. No.
All right, so we're going to start off with doing some journaling exercises. I want you guys just to write down the first thing that comes to your mind without any judgment when you hear this phrase. Are you ready? Here it is. As long or as short as you want, doesn't matter. On purpose. Okay. What about when you hear life on purpose? Does it mean the same thing? Does it mean something different? If it means something different, write down the difference. Don't judge yourself, just write. Anybody care to share?
Sure. On purpose, it reminds me of like an accusation. I hear it from Abigail with Phineas a lot. He did it on purpose. You know?
That's a good point.
That's what I thought.
We do hear that a lot.
And then life on purpose is very different. I wrote, means you have meaning, you have direction, like you have the answers to the test. Like you know what your life is about. You know, like I don't know, is anybody ever where they think they thought they were going to be 5 years ago? Like, does anybody ever, you have your 5-year plan, and you're like, here's where I want to be in 5 years. Is anybody ever there? Because I feel like if you have life on purpose, you'd have that.
Yeah. I used to think that having a 5-year plan was a terrible idea, because how could you ever understand or know what was going to happen in 5 or 2 years? And then I found the one thing and I was like, oh, I get it. I understand now. It's not so much about achieving the goal, it's about being appropriate in the moment.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's a really good question, Charlie. I feel like in some areas, like we talked, like when we were ready to start having kids, like we realize in 5 years we'll have children we're taking care of, but there are some things that like are better than what we would have picked for 5 years. And then there are other things we're like, oh, did not see that one coming.
But I would also say that for the first, we never actually set like even goals together until the goal setting retreat last year. And even then, like what we thought was going to be the goal for 1 year wasn't actually the goal. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, great question. What else? What else do you guys come up with?
Yeah, I finally set 5-year goals, but I feel like it's people who achieve them in my mind. Again, not like this is what I should think, but it's what I do think is like it's other people that achieve their 5-year goals.
Yeah, for those people. Yeah. Anybody else want to share what their difference was between on purpose and then life on purpose?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Allison.
Like when I heard just on purpose, I felt like it's intentional. Like I thought kind of like what my kids do. Like they intentionally, like I watched my 5-year-old kick my 7-year-old today. And I was like, well, yes, my 7-year-old provoked it, but it was intentional. Where I feel like life on purpose, it's when you really look at the meaning of what you want your life to look like and to be. And it's more thought provoked than an action.
Love it. Thank you. Angel, what were you going to say?
So funny, I had the word intentional, but in a different context. Mine were actually pretty similar, but more. So like I did think of on purpose as like defined, intentional, like I'm doing this on purpose. Like it didn't just accidentally happen. I actually planned for it. And then for life on purpose, the words that I had were like vision and planned. So whereas I thought of on purpose as like a one thing that I accomplished, I thought of life on purpose of like actually having a vision overall for my whole life. And my whole life is planned, not in like a bad way, but like I've actually created the life that I want kind of idea.
Very cool. Yeah, mine was kind of the same thing as yours, Angels. I put like, I decided to do this was the first thing, and then the second thing was like making the days count. Like, we have a bigger thing we're working towards, whereas the first one I just was thinking of like a one time in the moment thing.
So how many of you guys are actually reading the book, the hard copy of the book? You actually have the hard copy and you're reading from that. Charlie, do you have it?
I have it. I have not been doing a great job keeping up on the actual.
But I think you've seen it because I know you're involved in the community. And Allison, I'm not sure if you've seen this or not, but I'm going to share this screen with you guys real fast. When I'm hearing on purpose, this is what I have begun to start to think. So this is right out of the book. It's page 133.
It's 34.
No, that's a different one.
Okay. He's
so
correct.
133, and we talk about how if we're looking at an iceberg, right, we see that 10 or 20% that sticks out above the water, but the overwhelming majority is below the water. And when we talk about how do we live this big life with these extraordinary results, it has to be built on purpose as the foundation, not just intentionally, but it is built on the purpose of our lives, of what we want and what we're here to accomplish. Because once we understand what our purpose is, then we could stack the next layer, which is our priority, the one thing that's going to get me there. And then once we understand what our priority is, our productivity is driven by those priorities that we've identified. So how does that change what you're thinking in your brain, as opposed to just be more than intentionality? But actually, I think when I start to think about it, I think clarity. When I think on purpose, I think clarity. And I think that's what Gary's trying to tell us in chapter 13, right? If we live with this life on purpose, what we really start to understand is that we can set our priorities because we understand what our purpose is. And then once we understand what our priorities are, we work on that priority. It then drives our productivity, what we're actually getting done. So when he talks about in the book, he's talking about, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the page. I just lost it. Page 143. Yeah. He says, here's how life can look for us. He says, the prescription for extraordinary results is knowing what matters to you and taking daily doses of actions in alignment with it. Here's why. When you have a definite purpose for your life, clarity comes faster, which usually leads to faster decisions. I'm sorry, which leads to more conviction in your direction, which usually leads to faster decisions. Here's where it gets good. When you make faster decisions, you'll often be the one who makes the first decision and winds up with the best choices. And when you have the best choices, you have the opportunity for the best experiences. I don't know anybody in my life I've ever met that doesn't want the best experiences, even if it's not for you, if it's for others, for whatever it may be. But the point is, when you are not crystal clear on your purpose, then you have a hard time understanding what is the best action to take. And then that convolutes what you should be working on right now. Does that make sense? And so what Gary's saying here is the clearer we get on our purpose, the faster we can say yes to things and the faster we can say no to other things, so that way we can stay on task and have more productivity on the things that matter most. So we have the best choices. When we have the best choices, we make decisions the fastest. The faster we make decisions, we get better experiences.
A while back, maybe a month ago, I was experiencing some lack of clarity on which habits to build, and I went on the community page and just posted about that. And one guy said, hey, check out page 144. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and it happened so quickly, like everything came clear really fast. just by reading about my purpose. And I don't even remember specifically what this says because I'm just looking at it for the first time in a month. But basically it just, you know, I was like, should I, you know, do something with exercise? Should I develop a habit around, you know, sleeping? Should I develop a habit around this or that? You know, all the different circles that you can choose from. And then the clarity came, which, you know, a long time ago, I used to say that my purpose was to go to heaven and bring as many people as I can with me. And that, you know, not like a terrorist thing, but like,
Right.
actually, you know, like
Glad you clarified. We
in
weren't sure.
in a nice way. It actually reminds me of a joke, but I don't think we have time for that. Anyway, yeah. So you know, immediately I was like, oh well, I need to spend more time with God. You know, so how do we do that? And that like brought the clarity, you know, which was surprising because I really could stand to make more money, and I really could stand to, you know, eat better and exercise more. But like, it was clear that like the most important thing, the one thing, was to, you know, develop my relationship with God.
Yeah. So. Yep, absolutely. And I think what they're referring to in 144 is it says purpose provides the ultimate glue that will help you stick to the path you've set. And so, Angel, I know that you said that it wasn't exactly clear, and that I'm wondering if that's because you're not 100% sure on what your purpose is.
So I think that's correct. I'm not sure if that's the reason I'm not understanding. Because one of the things that I'm one of the several things I'm having difficulty with. One of them I posted that Jenny saw, but one of the ones that I'm having difficulty with the purpose thing is because obviously the one thing is the one thing. That's, you know, how it works. But like, you know, for instance, you talked about kids, and you know, through COVID and everything, I've seen the type of family, you know, interaction I'd like to have. But I'd also like to have, right now I'm unemployed because of COVID, but I'd like to, you know, have a new job. And I'd love that ideal thing where I feel like I'm having a job that's making a difference and all that. But to me, in my mind, that's separate from my family life. I don't want to mix those personally. So I do know that you know, that diagram where it's like life, work. But to me, like, those are both really important to me. You know, I want to love being with my child and love having fun and having the clarity in my brain to be able to do that and not be super stressed. And I'd also, in my ideal life, love to have work be something where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want to be doing. I'm so happy I did that. So I think that's, like, I think in the book, Gary says, oh, like teaching was his thing. I'm like, that's so great. And I'd want the fun home environment with my kid and all of like the stuff I love there.
You know, the number one objection that we hear inside of the community is that, well, I have more than one thing. And when I hear that, I always go back to this quote from the book. It's not that we only have one thing, Angel. It's that we're only working on one thing at a time. We identify what is the highest priority. We work on that until we earn the right to go to the next. So for instance, like, it's very important to me that I hit my business goals. And even more important than that is that I have 3 conversations with her every week where our technology is put away and it's just us having a conversation about something that's important. Not like, hey, how was your day? And both of those things happen in a day, but it's the understanding that until one of those gets done, I haven't earned the right to go to the next second or third or fourth priority. It's not saying that I only have one thing that I'm ever working on. It's that I'm just working by priority. Does that make sense?
The priorities, yeah. And it's taken a while for me to get to that, but yeah, it's more the purpose. The purpose made it seem like you have one purpose in life, you know, and that was more of the part that I was getting,
sure,
you know, a little stuck on. And we don't need to resolve it now, but
no,
just that's,
of course.
yeah.
I don't know that we can in 9 minutes for sure. So, but what I do love is Gary's advice at the end of the chapter where he says, in the areas, if you're not sure what the purpose is, just pick a direction and take action, because as you walk down the path, you'll get more clarity as you get down the path. Like that was super, super cool for me to remember. So
Can I throw out a great quote that I read
Please.
a while back? There was a really good book, and it was somewhat a political cultural, making a political cultural argument. But the one thing that it talked about was that a lot of folks have been told that they are going to have that they must have it all, that you must have you must have all of the
Priorities.
all of the priorities, everything happening, specifically it was referring to the modern woman who has to have an amazing career and be a great mom and have a great body and a great exercise and lots of friends, and you can have it all. That was the one of the lessons from the book. One of the main lessons was you can have it all, just not at the same time. There are seasons of life, which I think is really, when I think back to the most successful person I know, I've just recently realized if you go through the list of accomplishments of his life, you're like, how the heck did this guy fit it all in? But when I think back to how it actually happened, it was only like maximum of 3 things at a time, like that were actually happening in his life. He was focused on, 1 or 2 things, through his whole life. He was not scattered at all. And yet, if you look, if you read a resume, you'd be like, this guy has just done it all. How did he find the time?
Yeah. It's a very good point. We like to see that resume view and not look at all of the years that it took to build the resume.
Yeah, I was going to bring some stuff up and give us a little bit of an activity to do for chapter 14, but I want to be, I guess let's talk about this and I'll kind of just see where you guys want to go. So in 14, we talk about the goal setting to the now. And then in 15, we talk about time blocking. And there's a purpose behind the book, surprisingly, right? There's a way that this whole thing flows together where we talk about purpose first. And then we start talking about goal setting to the now, which is I'm taking my future purpose and I'm pulling that back to today and how that actually affects my life today. And then if we just stop with what I should be doing and not actually go to chapter 15, which is how does it actually show up on my calendar, it doesn't get done. So there was a year where I was going through this stuff on my own, no training. I wasn't a member of the community, Charlie. And I was just doing all this stuff on my own. And then I was doing the 411, which is a tool, and I wasn't using it with my calendar. And when I started to pair the two together, my business really took off and changed. So I guess what I want to ask is, if we could only focus on the next 6 minutes on one of these 2 concepts, goal setting to the now or time blocking, which one would be more beneficial to you guys?
I feel like I really have goal setting to the now figured out. It's the time blocking, especially as a guy who doesn't run his own business. And, I don't feel that I have a lot of control over my time. I think maybe like pre 6:30 in the morning, I have control over what I do. And the rest of the day, somebody's got a hold of it, so I find it very difficult to block anything out.
Gotcha. What about you?
That would be mine.
I feel like the time blocking, like how do you figure out how, like, I'm great at, like, right now because I'm, when I'm home, like that's kind of, I block it out for schoolwork, but how do I put it into like when I go into the clinics and, the days I go to work or go to clinics, it's like, I might wake up at 4:30 in the morning to run 30 minutes before I get in the shower to leave or like grab my coffee, run out the door after my shower to see patients. And if I'm at the hospital, I'm there till 7:30. So I don't get home till 8:00. So I feel like some days when I'm working or at clinic, it's like the whole day's shot because I've spent the whole day at work.
Okay. So let's talk about it. The way that we typically will teach time blocking is what the biggest challenge that most people find, that we find when we're helping people with this, is that they're trying to time block too many things. And Gary says there's only 3 things we should time block. Do we know what they are?
Time off, planning time, and your one thing.
Exactly. So what Gary says is that if you want to have big results, you have to have a big view of time. So if we had enough time, what I would typically do here is I would say to you, all right, open up your cell phone, go into your calendar app, pick any day back in February, and tell me what was your most important thing that you need to get done that day. Could you tell me? Just by looking at your calendar. Any day in February, could you tell me? Then I would ask you the question, could you tell me if you actually got it done? And you would say no, because the reason that we have the way that is because our schedules are set up such that we will act like everything is important or everything matters equally.
Yeah.
So what Gary says is we need to not live like that. We need to time block the things that are the most important. And so what we would do in a typical setting is I would give you a calendar for, say, January. Go up 2 or 3 months from now, because you can't time block right now. You're in the midst of the weeds, right? You need to get out of the weeds. Go out a few months where you don't have anything on the calendar. And then I would say, all right, great. What days are you not working this month? And we would start with the days off, your time off, and you'd fill those in. So like what Gary says, Gary uses is the One Thing Planner, which they just came out with a new version for 2021 that you can order. And it looks like this, right? So this is kind of what the calendar looks like. It's just a big blank calendar. Let me do this, make your life a little easier. You'll see this is Jeff Woods, but you can kind of get the idea. So it's just a blank calendar. Everything on here that's written is written in pencils, okay? And so you go before the month begins and you put in first your time off. So you can see on this week of the 18th, you can see their spring break. That's when he's not working. You can see that, like the days that he's got off are on Sundays. He's not working with his, he's spending time with his family. Then what we have is on the day you're time blocking or you're putting on those days, this day I need to get this thing done. We're not putting in our work schedules. We're not putting in the grocery shopping trips. Like all of that stuff is not our 20% that we're talking about in relation to the goals. It's still important. It still needs to get done, but it's the 80%. The 80% doesn't go on the time block calendar. So
Where does it go then?
Great question. So what we say is, remember, we're time blocking our 20% activities. The 80% still needs to get done, but it just doesn't show up here.
Because you know you're going to go to work. Like that's not, I mean, you know that you will show up for your job. So you don't have to put that on your calendar. You know that that's something that's going to happen. What you're
But calling Geico to update my auto policy, has to go on a list somewhere, even though it's not on my.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. It needs to go somewhere, and I'll tell you where it goes.
By the way, Geico saved me 32% in 15 minutes. They did. They're amazing.
So we time block our one thing. I mean, our time off. We put in the big rock into the stream and let everything else flow around it, right? Just like when you guys put in on your schedule, you're going to work, everything else has to flow around that, right? So you put in the days first of when you're not working. And this is why you have to go out a few months in advance. Now, remember, you reserve the right to take that time back if you need to. So like this year when COVID hit, Gary had his vacations planned out. As soon as COVID hit, he went, all right, eraser, I'm taking those times back and I'm probably going to need to be working to adjust my whole business. Second thing that we time block is our one thing. So let's say that my thing is, Allison, let's say that your thing is running. Well, then you put it on the days. What days are you actually going to go run? Charlie, for you, if it's going into the church and doing your prayers, what days of the week are you going to go there after or before work? And so it may not be every day, guys. So that's okay. But the point is that now it shows up on our week, so we know where it actually is going to go. And we know that's the most important thing. So if I come back and I show you this again, what we added this last year was this line. Can you see my mouse? Mm-hmm. Line right here, I'm next to 14. Like that thing is what we identify as this was the most important thing for that day. Okay. And you can see here, there's a check mark here, we would check it. We were teaching that you would check it if you got it done. What we're doing now is, just for easier reference, is if you get it done, you put a line through it. If you don't get it done, you circle it. So at the end of the month, when we have our, how did we do on our actual priorities that we said were important, we can quickly look and go, oh, I said I was going to do it, but I didn't actually get it done. And that's why I'm not having the results. Third thing we time block is our planning time. The time that we actually sit down and we put the things on the calendar for the week. Surprise. So this is how this works. Let's assume that this is a blank calendar. 3 months ago, Jeff put on spring break. This is when his kid's spring break was. So he knows he's not working. Now he comes back and says, all right, I blocked off my time off. Now I'm going to go for my one thing. I need to work 15 days this month, or I have to get 20 things done. Right? So what days of the month are they going to show up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I can't put them on here because I told my family I'm going on vacation. So now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. That's 15. Where are these other 5 days going to show up? Purpose, priority, productivity. What do I have to say no to that was already on my schedule so I can get this thing done? Charlie, for you right now, you're in make hay while the sun's shining season. Like, you're going to say no to a lot more things because you're saying yes to work more often, and that's okay.
Yes.
Right. Same thing for you, Allison, with your school. Like, there are days that you're just going to bust tail for school, bust tail for work, and then you guys get what's left over. I'm sorry, but that's why we need to then go back and say, well, then what is the day that I'm going to go give back to my family and actually put that on my calendar, so that way I say no to everything else. And then the last thing, like I said, is the planning time. These planning times are the things that I would make a habit around. Pick one day of the week, Friday afternoon or Sunday, it doesn't matter. Maybe Monday morning if you can swing it. I don't like Monday mornings because I feel behind. I like mine on Sundays, where I sit down and I go, what did I say I wanted to get done last week? How did I do? What's important this week? Where does it show up on my calendar? And I just check in with my goals every week, and I plan it out and I move things around. And what you'll find is this calendar here on my phone is set up that anybody can put stuff on there. Anybody with my email address can send me a calendar invite. And before I know it, I got 15 invites on a Monday that I need to be at these stupid meetings. But when I look at my calendar and I go,
oh, so that's how I grab a hold of you. Okay. Now I know.
So now what I do is I put it on here and I go, okay, cool. Hey, I said yes to this. No, I can't make that. Can we reschedule? No, I can't make that. Can we reschedule? No, I can't make that. Can we reschedule? That is how we time block. Where we lose people is at this stage. Well, Mark, how do I actually show up for those time blocks? Most of us are very entrepreneurial, meaning that we don't have a system around how we approach our time blocks. And this is the key. First thing you have to do is build a bunker. Number one, you have to have an environment that supports your goals. Where do you go to show up for your one thing that's going to support you in your goals? If the goal is to lose weight and it's running, then I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the treadmill. I'm going to go to I'm going to put my shoes next to my bed. Whatever it is, you have to create the bunker that supports your goal.
I made an appointment with myself for the first time in a really long time last Monday. You guys know this. I made an appointment with myself for 6:30 in the morning because I just needed some time to think. I just needed to think about my 411 because I'm about to do, work 58 out of 60 days or something like that. Okay. I'm about to go into it. And I'm like, I haven't had even time to think about it. I've been so crazy busy before I'm busy, and so I just made an appointment for 6:30 and, guys were coming into work, of course, sort of asking suspiciously, like, what the heck are you doing here so early? And one guy, I said to him, I just needed space to think. I just needed a little time to think, without the kids running at me or whatever else, or, dishes to do. And like the rest of the guys didn't get it, but this one dude was just like, yeah, awesome. And he like fist bumped me and like went on his day. And I was like, I'm so glad that somebody understood it,
Yep. And the number one reason why we see people fall off of this path is because they don't time block planning time. We get so busy, we start going so fast that we don't slow down to plan. And when we don't slow down to plan, the boulder doesn't get put in the stream and it just gets carried down the stream. But you have to set the date with yourself. You have to plan those times out. What were we going to say?
I was just going to say, I say this to my clients all the time in our fitness group, is that if it were a project for your kids, you would make sure that you found the time somewhere in your day to make sure it got done. If it was an appointment, a meeting with your boss, you'd make sure that you found the time in your day to show up for that appointment. You are far more important than any project your child needs turned in for school, any more important than a meeting that your boss schedules for you. And so this is what you guys want, like a life on purpose. And so setting 30 minutes each week for you to look to see, when am I doing the things that are most important for me? It is crucial for you to recognize the value that has for you, because you have value to add to the world. And so I want you guys, as you're going through this next week, to put that time on there. And what we've done, for us, for like our financial goals, we've said every month for I don't know how many months, we're going to sit down on Sundays and check in with our budget. And we didn't do it. And so we got accountability around it. And so we said to someone, if we don't send you a text that we've had our financial, our budget check-in, we have to pay you $50, because we weren't doing it ourselves. So we built that bunker around it, that we made it a priority. We put emphasis on it, because we weren't valuing how important it was for us. So now we make the time, because I'm like, I'm not paying somebody $50 because I didn't talk about my finances. Like, that's going to make my finances worse. So if you can't do that for yourself right now, have an accountability person to say, I'm going to send you my 401, or I'm going to send you a screenshot of my calendar for the week, because it's your life and your purpose is that important. That's all I was going to say.
All right, I'm going to bring us home real fast. So we time block we build a bunker, which is the spot we actually go to achieve our goals, which we'll work on what's most important. That environment needs to support us in our goals. Guys, sometimes an environment, if it's at home, sometimes it's a picture of your kids. I've done this exercise with people before where their environment was created by just taking the photo of their family, and their goal was to get the work done so that way they can have the vacation with their family. And their lead domino was they were going to spend 1 minute looking at the actual photo, just 1 minute thinking gratitude, gratefulness. What am I doing this for? 2, you store provisions. So like for me, I show up to work, I got to make a bunch of phone calls. I get thirsty, so I bring water. That's it. I might bring some almonds, some kind of light snack. Number 3, you sweep for minds. Inside of the bunker, what are the things most likely to derail you?
YouTube.
Right? Okay, great. Me too, for sure.
Guilty.
So guess what? Don't get on YouTube. I like to have YouTube for the music. So what did I do is I spent $10 and went and got Apple Music, and now I just have music that plays any song whenever I want, with no commercials, and I don't get distracted by all the stupid YouTube channels that I love to watch. But it's your email, it's your your cell phone, it's Facebook, whatever that may be for you. What are the things inside of the bunker that are going to knock you off the path? And then number 4 is you enlist support. So who are the people that you can say, I'm going into my bunker for the next 30 minutes. Just so I can get this done. And when I'm done, I'm all yours. Or I need you to shield me from the kids for 15 minutes, whatever that may be. And on the backside, I'll rub your feet. Like whatever you have to do, like negotiate the freaking thing so that way you guys can work on achieving your goals. Really sorry that we went really long, but we really try to be very respectful of your time. So I know that's a lot coming at you, but again, go back through, check out chapter 15 where Gary talks about how do we live for productivity? How do we goal set to the now? How do we do this time blocking exercise? Because the same visual is right here. Plan your time off, then your one thing, then your planning time. That's the only 3 things that should go on your big calendar. On your daily calendar, that's where this other stuff starts to show up, Charlie. On Friday, I'm going to call Geico so that way I can check the insurance rate, because I know I'm going to be driving between jobs. Those kinds of things. Does that make sense? They're still important. They still got to get done, but they're not the 20% to get you 80% of results. Questions that you guys have for me? If you need to run, by all means, I'll let you run.
Can you just say that again? I took a glance at the book and then missed part of what you, because that's the way I am. Where do those 80% items go?
They're going to go in your daily calendar. That's where they show up in this calendar, your digital calendar.
Okay.
And so here's the process. For GPS, I'm going to Allison, I don't know how familiar you are with these terms. If not, it's okay. I'll explain in a minute. Charlie, GPS, which you don't have because you don't own the business. 411 flows to the calendar, the big calendar. Big calendar flows to the digital calendar. Does that make sense? So we put the big rocks on the big calendar first.
Okay.
Then those big rocks go to our digital calendar first.
Okay.
And then we fill in the blanks with that little 80% stuff, like calling Geico, going and picking up pizzas, that other stuff that has to.
I use a paper planner, but yes, I don't use I set alarms for myself, but I don't yeah, but I know what you're saying. Okay. So it's
put the big rocks in the stream first.
Okay.
Girls, any questions, anything we can answer for you?
Not that I
We have
could-
about 1 more minute, and then Jenny has to jump on another call.
No, not questions. I was reading another KonMari thing and she coincidentally said a lot of the things, so I'm considering actually planning my time off first, like my rewards, I guess in this case, because it's not time off, but yeah,
Successful
just
people
thinking how that
always-
would change my mindset.
Successful people always work between vacations. The reason they do that is number one, they know that they can afford it because they're going to work really hard in the time they're at work. And number two, they know that they're going to need it because they're going to need to recharge the batteries. Highly effective people will always block their time off first as a goal to reach. Like this is the end, right at the end of the tunnel. And also, I know I'm going to bust tail and I know I'm going to be able to afford it, but I'm also going to need it to recharge my batteries. Think about your lives, guys, especially Allison, Charlie, these next couple of weeks. Like you guys are going to be extremely overwhelmed, right? Writing 13-page papers, working 58 out of 60 days. Angel, you live in New York City, your whole world's falling around. Like you guys need those moments that you're looking forward to have a break and recharge the battery so you can show back up for yourselves and for those who are most important to you.
I think it's really important to participate in the community personally because the encouragement, sometimes I just post something just to get, just to get people's responses, just to feel like I'm part of the community. So, because if I go too long without, touching base with people who are thinking in the same way, I just get lost. I just I float away. So, I'll just make sure that I post something or comment on something or just get involved. I think the community aspect, whether it's through the Facebook page or if a couple of people meeting private. I actually have a guy really locally here that turns out we met in the One Thing community and now we meet for coffee now and then. So just to be part of that community really helps me.
Well, we appreciate you guys being here. We look forward to these calls and we hope that you guys are getting a bunch of value out of it that's helpful. So next week, 16, 17, and 18, we'll see you guys next Monday.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Questions,
you.
let us know in the
Thank
chat box or in the Facebook group. See ya.